Hi everyone, this is an introduction to Punnett squares video. So in the Gregor-Mendel activity that you did, you were introduced to Punnett squares. But let's do a little bit more practice with this vocabulary and with these Punnett squares. So Punnett squares are a model or chart that allows all possible combinations of alleles that can result from a genetic cross to be shown in the chart. A Punnett square can be used to predict the outcome of two parents with known genotypes breeding. So in the case of Gregor-Mendel, he was cross-fertilizing pea plants, and that was breeding the pea plants. As Gregor-Mendel worked with peas, he determined lots of different traits that could be passed on from parents to offspring. So we see this table here that shows those traits such as seed shape, the color of seeds, the color of the pea pod, the shape of the pea pod, the height of the plant, the position of the flowers on the plant, and the flower color. Dominant traits are the ones that show up most often. They mask the recessive trait. An individual only needs one copy of the allele for the dominant trait to show the dominant trait. The recessive trait is masked or covered by the dominant trait, and an individual would have to have two copies of the recessive allele to show the recessive trait. So we can see the dominant traits in pea plants are round peas, yellow in color, grown in green seed pods that are full. Pea plants are usually tall, with flowers at leaf junctions and purple flowers. However, the alternate form of these traits, we could see wrinkled peas, we could see green-colored pea seeds, yellow pods, flat or constricted pods, short pea plants with flowers at the branches, at the tip, and white flowers. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this summary to finish filling in the table. So we can see for flower color, we're using the letter P. So for our dominant genotype, I've already typed in here, our dominant genotype here is PP, two uppercase P's, or an uppercase P and a lowercase p. So I'm just going to highlight that. Either way, that flower is going to look purple. The recessive genotype has to have two copies of that recessive allele, so that would be the two lowercase p's, and the recessive trait would look white. So for the phenotype, these flowers can either look purple or they can look white. So that's what we've typed in here. So now we're going to continue, and I'll let you fill in the genotypes for shape and for color. For shape, we're using the letter R, and for color, we're using the letter Y. So if we're going to determine flower color, we're going to use a Punnett square to show what would happen if we cross-fertilized a female pea plant that is homozygous dominant for flower color with a male pea plant that is homozygous recessive for flower color. Remember, homozygous means same. So what would the genotype be for the homozygous dominant female for flower color? Well, if we remember, flower color is this letter P, and homozygous dominant, we would be looking here at our dominant genotype, and homozygous means same. So I'm going to choose this one here that's the two uppercase letter P's. So my genotype, I'm just going to type in those letters for genotype. So my genotype would be PP, two uppercase P's. And then the genotype for the homozygous recessive male, if we look back at our table, recessive would be the two lowercase p's, and homozygous means same, so they're both lowercase. So our genotype would end up being 2 lowercase p's. Now, if we're talking about phenotype, if we have 2 uppercase p's, it's dominant for color, so they would be purple in color. And for the phenotype of the homozygous recessive male, that would be 2 copies of that recessive allele, so the lowercase p's, and we would see that it would be white. So we've got a purple female and a white male, and now we're going to fill in our Punnett square. So we see we've got this Punnett square set up here. I set it up as a table that you can type in. One of the parents we're going to type into the yellow boxes, and the other parent we're going to type into the blue boxes. So let's say, the mom, the homozygous dominant female, into the yellow boxes. So her genotype is PP. So we split those alleles to show that there they are. And then we'll put the other parent here in the blue boxes. And the homozygous recessive male has the genotype PP, but they're both lowercase. So we split those alleles up. Then to complete the Punnett square, what we're going to do is we're going to take the allele from this box and the allele from this box to fill in this possible outcome. So this possible outcome for this offspring would get 1 uppercase or dominant allele from the mom and 1 recessive allele from the dad. Now, if we needed to fill in the next box down, we would again look at this allele and then this allele. So we're going to fill in that chart. So this possible outcome would have the dominant allele and a recessive allele. We come over here. Now we're looking at this allele and this allele from the other parent. So once again, we'd end up with 1 dominant allele and 1 recessive allele. And our final box, we're doing the same thing. We're taking this allele from this parent and this allele from this parent. And when we pair them up, we get 1 dominant allele and 1 recessive allele. So if we're going to list the possible genotypes and phenotypes for their children, what we see here is that they could have the genotype PP. And if we need to look back at our table to see what that would look like, if they have the uppercase P and the lowercase p, they would be purple. So the flower color phenotype would be purple. I'm just going to highlight that to make it stand out from the question. So here we are looking at those chances or probabilities of the offspring having a certain color of flower. So the first one asks, what are the chances of the offspring having purple flowers? So first we're going to write this as a fraction out of 4. So if we take a look, we said that all of the children are going to have this same genotype, uppercase P, lowercase p. They're all going to be purple. So that means that out of these 4 boxes here, 4 out of 4 would have purple flowers. And if we were to write this as a percent, so 100% would be purple. Our follow-up question asks us, what is the chance or probability of the offspring having white flowers? So to have white flowers, they would have to have the genotype lowercase p, to have that white flower color. So if we look here at the outcome of our Punnett square, we don't have any chances of the offspring having the recessive flower color. So we would write that as 0 out of 4 have white flowers. So 0% would be white. And there's a final question about pea shape. It's the same layout, same questions as the problem we just worked through together, except this time we're looking at a female pea plant that is heterozygous for pea shape and a male pea plant that is heterozygous for pea shape. So remember, heterozygous means different. So if we're thinking about pea shape, let's look back at our table here. So for pea seed shape, we would think about what would our dominant and recessive genotype be. For flower color, heterozygous would have been uppercase P, lowercase p, because it's having one copy of the dominant allele and one copy of the recessive allele. That would be the heterozygous trait there. So I'm going to let you try to do that problem on your own. If anyone has questions, please get in touch. Good luck.